Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I feel really good today because for once, I stood up for myself. It was a very minor situation, but I stood up for myself. See, I don't like giving money to panhandlers for a variety of reasons. The big one being that when I used to live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was going to school at the University of Pittsburgh. And oftentimes at night, I would be finished with my homework. I would be headed home at 9 o'clock. I was walking, and somebody would beg me for a few cents, $1 or something. And I would give to one person. All of a sudden, there would be a swarm of people asking me for money. And you kind of felt like you had to be fair. And so the end, I can't tell you how many times I gave up. I gave up more than I wanted to. And not to mention that I'm not doing all that well off, right? I can't just be giving my money left and right. And so earlier today, I had walked to a convenience store. Well, I took a walk and then I took a break at the convenience store, and I was headed back, and I sat at a bench. There just happens to be a shade, and I was strategizing some things, and all of a sudden somebody asked me for some change, and I ignored him. And you know what? He stood there for like a good 2, 3 minutes. I was sitting there like a stone, ignoring him because I didn't want to deal with the drama. And finally, I gave him a Peter dislike gesture, and he walked away. And I felt so good about that, standing up for myself, because a lot of times in times past, I might not have uh, given to panhandlers in recent years, but at my workplaces, in my social circles, you know, I've bled away too much wealth over the last few years, helping my colleagues with various things, and it seems like at my workplaces, people stick their hand out way too much, and I'm gonna have to think hard on what to do about that. I actually turned down a job because they have a policy of being able to donate your vacation time. I really despise that policy. I went to read about it yesterday because right now I'm in the middle of thinking of another job that has that kind of policy. And so it prompted me to go online to read about it. And I discovered that the place I was applying to, it wasn't even the worst. I read one workplace where if you could donate, but the company takes like half of it. You got to donate 2 days for your colleague to get one day. Ew. Like, why would you do that? I would rather just give my colleagues something else that they need, right? But whatever the situation is, I've been too nice to people, filling in for colleagues. The next time my colleague needs me to fill in for an odd hour, right? Let's say next week, one of my colleagues wants to take his daughter to go see a Taylor Swift concert, and I happen to be available. What I need to get better at doing is negotiating something in return, right? A lot of times I used to just do it, and then I would not get something in return, and then I would be disgusted about it, right? I was working at a different place a little over a year ago now. I had a colleague who was younger than me. She was still living with her parents, I think 19, 20, 21 years old. And I got into a little bit of a weird situation with her. She was looking at me eating all these healthy foods. And so she wanted to try some of the baking chocolate that you see, I don't even eat it anymore. I haven't eaten it in 3 months. But at the time, I was eating a lot of dark baking chocolate. And so she tried some and she loved it. And she kept asking me for various foods. And before I knew it, I was spending a small fortune just sharing my food with her. And it just became weird. At the same time, a lot of times I don't have a whole lot of friends who eat the same way as I do. So that was great. But at the same time, I wasn't making all that much money. I was supplementing my income with the art projects. And so it was part of the reason why I left that job. I mean, that wasn't the only toxicity. That wasn't even the scratching the surface of all the toxicity there, but it added to all the drama at the job. And so I need to get better at not just bleeding away all my resources. I have a tendency to do, especially at the workplace, right? So, and especially in the dating world sometimes, although I'm getting better at not doing that in the dating world because I have this alternative way to date, right? As you guys know, right? So it's never a desperate situation, right? Anyway, I don't know. Feel free to comment about how I handled the panhandler today. I just, it was just weird. I should have just said no in the first place. I kind of wanted him to accept no without saying it, kind of like quiet quitting, right? I kind of wanted to quietly say no to the panhandler, and it didn't turn out, and I had to loudly say no at the end. All right. Oh, one more great thing that happened this past week. Peter Schitt finally recommended copper. And unfortunately, he limited it to just copper. Copper is not even all that rare for its price, right? I'm going to ask him again about his opinion on tellurium and bismuth, and even nickel and zinc, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.